Let's make a paper orchid wreath. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my craft room. My name is Kelsey. I also call myself Dinosaur Mama, and I am so excited to share this project with you today. For all of the materials and tools and the free file, you can check out the blog post below. I will link it and it'll get you everything you need to create your own. Let's get crafting. So this file is going to be pretty easy to upload. The only thing is, if you leave it in this true wreath state, it's going to have like all of the leaves kind of all over the place. And if you want to cut it like this, so be it. However, when I cut it, I ungrouped everything and then kind of pulled everything off to the side. Like, I don't know why Cricut can't figure out how to kind of like fit things to the paper. Instead, they just leave it the way it is. So I just grouped all of my leaves together. So like would grab them and then rotate them so they're straight up so I can fit more on a page. When you do this, you do have to group them all off to the side, and then you're going to have to attach them. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word for a second. You're going to have to attach them so that they're spaced out. So let me skip to that so I can show you. So you see I have everything pulled out and rotated, but now even if you go to make it, it's still going to be like just a disaster. Let's just be real. Even though we pulled out all of the pieces and we rotated them. So what we have to do is grab a square, and we are going to have to put them out like over a 12 by 12 or an 8.5 by 11, whatever paper you decide to use, and you're going to have to space them out. So you can grab a shape, and we're going to end up deleting this shape or hiding it. You can make it 11.5 by 11.5 or 8 by 10.5, depending on what size of paper. Remember, they don't utilize the full sheet, and you're just going to spread these out like so. And then once you have them all spread out and where you want them on the page, so like rotated, kind of max out your paper as much as you can. You're going to want to move that back gray square, so you can move it down and then you can hide it or delete it. We're going to use it again. And you're just going to grab the ones that you have just put into the place, and you're going to attach them. So now when you go to make this, this will be perfect on a 12 by 12 piece of paper. And again, you'll have to do it for all of the other leaves so that they are all on one sheet and not all over the place. So see, I go to make it, and I haven't done it for the other leaves yet, but here it is on one sheet. So see, it went down to two pieces of paper rather than 3 or 4. But really, this is just an optional thing because you can cut it however you want and move things around. So I just wanted to show you how I did it first. So I bought this ring at the Dollar Tree, so it was $1.25. They have all different sizes, and the one that I am using is a 14-inch ring. So this is what my wreath is sized to. It is a 14-inch wreath. So just keep that in mind, and I will link everything that I use below in the blog post. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for all the specific stuff I used. I always link all of my project materials and tools below. So your first step is to sort out your leaves, because that's what you're going to build first. You're going to build the leaves around the wreath. And you're going to want to sort by groups of 3 and then put them all around the wreath. They're going to go evenly around, as even as you can. And you can always cut more leaves if you want or less if you want. I ended up not using all of them, if I'm going to be honest. I ended up using I think I had 3 piles left over. So I do make extra. You can use the extra. You don't have to. Try to make them as evenly spaced as possible. I like the way mine turned out. So it's totally up to you, as I always leave it. I just kind of give you the basic structure, and I always leave the creativity up to you. Now, I did bend these ever so slightly. I really didn't put a lot of bend into it. But you're just going to use your hot glue gun. I really suggest using hot glue. I guess you could use like a Gorilla Glue or something that dries quickly, but because we're working on a metal frame, you don't really want to have too much movement. So you're going to want to use your hot glue gun and put just a little bit onto that frame, and then you're going to glue down your leaves. It doesn't matter what pattern you really glue your leaves on. If you go from the outside to the inside, it's totally up to you. You can switch it each time if you want. But we're going to go to the right. So you want to cover the back of the leaf with the next row of leaves. So you don't want to go to the left and then cover that shape of the leaf because that's going to look silly. We're going to work to the right of this wreath and we are going to cover the ends where it's a little circular. So I'm just letting everything dry as I work around. I'm sorry, it's a little shaky, but that is how I'm going to work around my entire wreath. And again, I did try to make these as evenly spaced as possible. So I did try my best to, like, you know, not have them too far apart, have no open gaps. Do your best. I think I covered mine pretty well. And again, I didn't use all of the leaves. And so I just went around relatively slowly. Obviously, I sped this up. I wish I worked this fast. And I placed each leaf individually onto my wreath. And as you get to your last set of leaves, so see I had extra over here, you want to take the end of this one, lift up that first one. So I did not glue down the front of that leaf. So it was like, you can't even really glue it down anyway. And I stuck the end of my leaf underneath those first leaves so that it was consistent all the way around this frame. And that is how you end your wreath. So you stick it underneath like this. And I just took my time. I thought I spaced it out really well. So again, you can definitely even go closer with these a little bit because I do give you the extra leaves. So I wish I would have had them a little closer together, but I actually really like the way this one looks. I think that it's pretty evenly spaced. There are lines in between each of the like sections. Like I think there's like 5 sections on this wreath. And so I tried to use that as a guide. But obviously I misjudged myself there, so I just went with what I had. And you can always add these extra leaves after if you want some more filler leaves, or you can just delete them. And if you have a smaller wreath, just consider the sizing before you even go to cut. So make sure you're checking the sizing of everything. When you upload this SVG, it is made for a 14-inch wreath. So I'm just grabbing my leaves that have these like, I don't know what to call them, the longer leaves. And I am just stacking these and I'm just going to fold them ever so slightly in the center. I'm not going to make like a crease. I'm really just folding up the little pine, I don't know what to call them, like the little pine needles, I guess, on the side, folded towards the center. So I'm going to have these have a little more depth in them than the flat leaves that we have on the orchid wreath, so on the flat part. So I'm just going to fold these and then I'm going to place them off to the side. For our white flowers, these are super simple to give them definition. You're literally just going to fold up those leaves all around, and you can add some color to the center if you want with like some alcohol ink or a stamp, a marker, a sequins. I just left mine plain. Again, my SVGs I like to think of as vessels and like ideas, and then you can take them and make them your own creative different way. And you can do these in groups. You can do each flower individually, whichever you prefer, but we are just folding up each of those little petals into the center to give them a little definition, make them kind of like a 3D flower. So let's get started on our orchids. When I originally made the orchid, I used the back of a measuring spoon to round them out. And if that's something you want, that look like where it's a little more rounded than with your fingers, please use like a ball, a roller, or a back of a measuring spoon. But I just use my fingers in this one. So they're not as rounded than when I made them the first time. I wish I had a video of that, but I don't, unfortunately. But it's totally up to you. They still look good, not being as super duper rounded. They're still a 3D flower. So it's up to you how much depth you want your orchid to have. So with that, I am going around and giving some definition to these 3-pronged part of the orchid. and I am kind of folding them in on the bottom, top, and side. And so it's just giving it a little bit of definition, and I'm going to do that to all of my pieces. So I kind of like made these all together, I guess you would say. So I'm giving definition to these. I'm folding in on both sides. And I like to show you with my fingers too, because you might not have any special tools. And like, I personally don't have like the paper flower tools. I just, like I said, I was using a measuring spoon for it, because I don't want to purchase them for some reason. I will link them in the blog if it's something that you are looking for. However, I don't use them because I don't have it. So I just use my fingers for all of my flower making. And now for the back part of the orchid, you're going to do the same. You're going to kind of round them with your fingers. And this is where I did use most of my measuring spoon. I kind of did like a circle, so it was like really, really rounded. But I'm just using my fingers to round them here. And again, that's what you can do. You don't have to be super gentle. I know it's paper. Just don't rip it. And give it as much definition on these as you can to give them a rounded edge. So now let's go ahead and start assembling these. So you're going to need one of the 3-prong pieces and those two that the ones that we just rounded, and we're going to glue the 2 to the front of those. So I'm just using a little bit of craft glue here to glue those together. See, I'm not using very much to attach them, and you're pretty much centering it. Like I don't want to say it's like centered, but it's a little bit higher. But this is how you want to glue it down. It's going to be pretty free flowing on it. And so like the rounder you get those 2 outer leaves, the better. And make sure that this dries nice and solid together. Now let's make our center. So you're going to grab one of these like 3, it looks like a little horn with a center. You're going to fold those little horns towards this middle of it so that they kind of fold together like this. And then you are going to attach, again, the little purple part that I have is like the little, what is that called? A stemma? That's not right. And so you're going to glue this on. It just gives it a pop of color. It goes right onto the piece. They match up. So you're going to glue that on together. And then the center part is like a rectangle. And again, I just glued that right to the middle. So there's the purple piece that I just glued on, and then there is like a little stem down, and this is going to go pretty much in the center of this pink piece. So if you're following along, I hope this all makes sense, and please don't hesitate to ask me questions or send me an email if you are not quite sure what I'm saying. But that is how it goes on for the assembly. And then there's one little U shape. These are going to only be attached at the very bottom because I'm actually going to like curl the top skinny pieces sort of towards me. And then that bottom piece aligns to the bottom of that center we just made. And so we want this to be kind of 3D looking. And so I'm going to put a little bit of glue. See, I'm not gluing up both sides. And I'm going to attach it to this bottom part here. And so now it's like double 3D, like you have like the 2 prongs from the back sticking up. Of course I drop it. And then you have your other pieces. So it is like a little 3D piece. And that's going to go right in the center. And again, we're just going to glue that on with a little bit of craft glue. And I'm not using a ton of glue. I'm really just kind of keeping it towards the center. That way those sides still stick up to give us a 3D vibe for our orchid. And that's how you create your whole orchid. You can definitely add color to it. Like when I first made these, I like painted the edges. It looked really, really nice to give it a little more definition. Just for these, I'm just going to leave them plain. So it's really up to you and how you want to design the orchids. And now I'm going to build the rest of my flowers. And now for our final bit, we are just going to assemble our wreaths. We have everything ready to go and be glued on. And so now I'm just placing things where I want them onto my wreath. So I have my 4 orchids off to the side, and I'm going to have them kind of in this slightly bended form rather than like straight or all over the wreath. But again, it is totally up to you. If you want to cut out like 18 more orchids and put them all over, please do so. This is your wreath. I'm just showing you the basics of how to do everything. And again, I'm using hot glue for this part of the attachment because I think it's a little more secure than my craft glue would be, and it'll dry a little bit quicker. So I'm going to go through and place these down first. And now that I have them all placed down, I'm going to grab my leaves, and these are kind of like filler leaves. You can place these however you want. I do have them in like a specific part on the SVG file, so I kind of went based off of that. And so all you're going to do is place them like behind the orchid, behind the leaves, in the leaves. And see, I'm not putting a ton of glue. It's more towards the bottom. And then I'm placing them in and kind of moving the orchids around them. Because I didn't glue these orchids like completely flat down to the wreath. I kind of gave them a little bit of like leave on both sides. And so I'm able to move them around and place the leaves underneath. And just like I say with everything else, if you want like more definition, if you want it to look a little different, you can cut these out in different colors. You can cut more of them out. You can add as much to your wreath as you want. And so I just went around and kind of moved them underneath because we never glued down the front of those leaves. And I switched sides as I moved around so that it like kind of stuck out a little on one side, was towards the middle and the other side. And you can even like add your name into the center if you want, like your last name for like a front door wreath. Or if you're giving it to your mom for Mother's Day, like you can add like Happy Mother's Day to the center. And then for the white flowers, these are filler flowers. So you can kind of place these wherever you want. And again, I'm using my hot glue to attach these down. And that's it. Once you have your filler flowers placed down where you'd like them, your wreath is complete, and you can add as many or as little as you want. I used all of mine because I thought it was cute. It kind of gives me like a Hawaiian vibe. I don't know. Well, I just think it's a cute wreath. But I hope you enjoyed making this project as much as I enjoyed making it. I was really happy with the way that it turned out, and there's so much that can be added to this as well if you want to add more to it. Thank you so much for joining me today as we created this paper orchid wreath. If you enjoyed this project and you're looking for more paper craft projects, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this that much, please give it a thumbs up as well. It really helps me. Stay crafty.